Excellent. We'll get started here. Good morning and welcome back to the Grande Prairie District Chamber of Commerce Community Pulse Series. My name is Tertius Jennis and I'm chair of the board for the chamber. Would like to start off by saying that and acknowledging that we are meeting on Treaty 8 territory, and we honor and acknowledge all of the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people who have lived, traveled, and gathered these lands for thousands of years. This meeting is being recorded. You will be able to ask questions in the chat box or by using the raise hand function and unmute yourself then. The Grande Prairie area has a robust and diverse economy. The Community Pulse series is designed to provide updates and insights from a variety of industries, sectors, and organizations that make up the fabric of our unique and incredible community. Thank you to our presenting partners, Aquatera Utilities, Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers, City of Grande Prairie, Grande Prairie Regional Innovation Network, and our supporting partners, the Community Futures Grande Prairie Region, the County of Grande Prairie, and the Municipal District of Greenview. Just before we get into today's presentation, we have an update from our update on the Chamber's Think Local GP initiative with our CEO, Tanya Oliver.
Thanks, Tertius. I do want to just pop in and give a little plug for our Think Local GP. The campaign kind of grant period is over, but we have been left now with a legacy initiative in our community to continue to highlight the importance of supporting local and what that means. We've got a few programs that live underneath the Think Local umbrella now, such as our Get in the Loop, Chamber Market, and Talinity. And we also have an amazing digital service squad of 3 youth that are providing free digital assessments for our businesses and giving you some advice on ways to enhance your online presence. They are able to provide customized support, and they're just an incredible team that we have. So we definitely encourage you to pop onto our website, fill out your name for the free digital assessment, and they will help optimize your search engine optimization. They'll help optimize your social media presence. They'll even help you set it up. We didn't have an Instagram account before we had our digital assessment, and we were advised that that would be a good idea and a demographic that we would want to kind of connect with. So they, gave us an outline of what we should do, gave us a content calendar, and they even helped get us started. So that's something they can do for anybody, depending on kind of what you need. So, and many of you have seen our wonderful video already. I am never going to get tired of sharing our video, so I'm going to do that now. And then I'll pass it back over to Tertius. Let's see.
Grande Prairie's regional community thrives when people think local. Andre's $10 bought him a hammy on rye and his cappuccino.
2 sugars, please.
Cappuccino, 2 sugars.
That same $10 helps the cafe source their ham from a butcher down the street.
And my butcher shop donates to the food bank every month.
From the comfort of her home, Maya finally bought those Featherlight hiking boots she's been eyeing.
I bought them from a local store, online.
And part of her purchase let the store owner hire Alexandra, the neighboring accountant.
With some of my earnings, I took my kids to explore the dinosaur museum. They love their dinosaurs.
That's because every dollar spent locally gets spent again and again and again. Evan bought his new iGadget 3000 at the big box store. He wasn't even thinking about supporting local.
Yeah, I didn't even know I was supporting local.
But that store pays Andre his salary.
Cappuccino for Andre, 2 sugars.
That's me.
So he can keep getting his cappuccinos. 2 sugars. Explore local. Support local. Think local. Think local GP.
There we go. So back over to you, Tertius.
Excellent. Thank you, Tanya. And as always, many, many thanks. And I know our business community are very thankful to you and your team of really bringing this message of Think Local Home, and very successful with that whole initiative. I would really recommend also as you alluded to, the digital assessment that is being offered free of charge, even within Chamberlain. They were helping them set up with their own Instagram account, and that already has paid benefits. So definitely encourage you to make use of those services. This week's presenter is Justin Kohlman, President and CEO of Northwestern Polytechnic. He will speak on their recent rebranding and other activities, as well as future initiatives. Northwestern Polytechnic, previously known as Grande Prairie Regional College, was established in 1966. The institution expanded in 2009 by taking over the administration of Fairview College, and currently operates campuses in Grande Prairie and Fairview. The institution is responsive to community and industry demand for specific training by providing customized, non-credit pre-employment programming, skills development, safety training, and community interest courses. Justin Kohlman spent the last 6 years at Coast Mountain College in Northwest BC, where he led with progressive responsibility, first as Vice President, Academic, International, and Students, and most recently as President and CEO. He also served 4 years as Vice President of Students at BCIT, 5 years as Director of Marketing and Enrollment Services at the University of Victoria, and Manager of Marketing and Communications at Monash University, Australia's largest post-secondary. Please welcome Justin Kohlman.
Thank you very much for that, Tertius. Great to be here, and I'm super excited to present to you. One of the things I want to do, though, is pick on Ken, because that's what I do best, and he's got such a cool backdrop. So Ken was just kind enough to help me give a presentation of Rotary recently. And so, Ken, what do you remember about my presentation of Rotary?
It was fun.
Well, hopefully today's presentation is fun as well. So the other thing I want to point out, though, is I'm a big fan of making my audience work hard. And so I'm going to flip the script and do a little Kahoot. So for those of you that haven't done a Kahoot before, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it up on the screen, ask you to go on your cell phone, put in the number that I'm going to give you, and then we can see which of you have done your homework in advance and who has been preparing. And no pressure, Tertius, but if you don't get 100%, we'll be pretty disappointed in your effort.
Yeah, I was hoping to get a better mark this time.
So
I'm just going to use a false name or something.
Yeah, and that's a good hint. So, you do get to put a nickname in there. So if you think you're going to do good, put your name. If you don't, then put somebody else's name. So I'm going to try to share screen here. Hopefully this works. Does that work? Tanya, can you give me a thumbs up if you can see the Kahoot? Yep, okay, perfect. So what I'd like you to do is go on your phones and type in kahoot.it, so KAHOOT.it, and then put in that PIN number, 583625. Let's give everybody a couple minutes to get in there. And then you can put in your nickname, put in your real name, put in your neighbor's name, whatever works for you. And the intent over the next 15 minutes or so is I'm going to ask a number of questions, and if you get the questions right,
I'm not even in yet. Who's got?
Well, obviously someone's taking you down here, Tertius.
That's okay.
And so what you want to do is get the right answer, and if you get it quickly, you get extra points. So getting it right and get it quick are the thing. Not Ken is now in, so that's good to see. I'll just give people Ken. There's going to be a lot of Kens here by the looks of it.
Often imitated, never duplicated. I tell you, height of flattery.
I recognize the Sin. Thanks for joining, Cindy. Oh, we got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 people so far. So we'll just give it another 30 seconds and then we'll get started. And so the point of my questions is it's going to feel like I'm kind of jumping all over, and that's because I'm jumping all over. but really it's also just to generate some different thoughts and different ideas and get you thinking about different questions you might have for me as well. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions, but hopefully this fuels the fire a little for you. So here we go. Hold on for the ride. So first question is, what happened March 9th? And you got 4 options there. You can pick whichever one you like. You can see I'm taking this very seriously. All right, let's see how we did. 14 people got it right. Nobody thought summer arrived in Grande Prairie. Well, I guess that's good. So congratulations, everybody. And Sinsin was quick on the trigger finger. So takes the big jump in the lead. Good job, Cindy. What region in Alberta is expected to have higher annual growth than Grande Prairie's 1.59% per year until 2046? For those of you that have seen my Rotary presentation, I expect a quick response to this one. No pressure there, Ken, but if you get it wrong, I'll be quite disappointed. And so the answer was Calgary. And that is the only region that is expected to grow faster than Grande Prairie until 2046. And so as we did our strategic planning, we were trying to figure out, okay, what does that mean? So if this region is going to be growing that quickly, how do we support that? What does it mean from a post-secondary perspective? So as we went from a college to a polytechnic, how do we best support that growth to make sure that actually happens? Oh, got to change into the leaderboard. Lucinda jumps into first. Question 3, how many post-secondary institutes does the average high schooler apply to? And I can tell you my daughter was right on average. She's in grade 12 right now, and she's just applied to a number of institutions. So I can tell you she was in the ballpark. And the answer was, I think it's actually 5.6 right now is the average, which is about one more institution than it was a decade ago. And I think I read somewhere that that's about 2.5, about twice as much as 20 years ago. So students are more and more looking for more options. Mm-hmm. And the comment I often make, and some of you have heard me say it before, is people say, oh, students should come to Northwestern Polytechnic because it's our local choice. And I say, no, they should come because it's their best choice, because they're going to make, they've got a lot of choices out there. And if we don't stand out and make it the best choice, then it's easy for them to go elsewhere. Ooh, little change. Oh, Cindy moved back up. Congratulations, Cindy. Higher education spending in Alberta grew by how much from 2006 to 2010? Between 2006 and 2010, how much did higher education spending in Alberta grow by? And as you may have heard from Tertia's comments earlier, I was actually in Victoria at that time, looking very enviously over at all the money being thrown at Alberta, because it grew by a whopping 60% over those 5 years. And so people often say, oh, we used to have this and this and this, and we used to do this. And yeah, we did, because we had a lot of money. So now we have, but I think the good thing about it is it means that we get to be a lot more creative now. And it makes us actually really prioritize and put our efforts where they need to be. Not that I've turned down 60% increase in funding. Tertius has moved in. All right. Globally, how many more universities were there in 2018 than in 2008? So how many more universities were there during that 10-year period? 10% more, the exact same, 50% more, 100% more. And it was 50% more. And almost all that growth was actually in Asia and in Africa. So what you're seeing is, a lot more student options if you live in either Asia or Africa. In North America, Western Europe, it's been very flat. Tertius held on to his lead, looking confident. 90% of global student growth during the past decade occurred in private universities and colleges. True or false? Got a 50-50 chance at this one. And it is true. Almost all growth during the past decade has been in private institutions. And so what you're seeing is not only are private institutions growing a lot, but so are partnerships with private universities. So that was something we really had to think about as we worked on our strat plan as well, is what does that mean for us? How do we better work with partners, and both public partners and private partners as we go forward, and what opportunities are there? And I think that there is actually some fantastic opportunities for us. Ooh, Tertius patted his lead a little more. True or false? Across Canada, college numbers have declined nearly 8% since 2012. True or false? Across Canada, college numbers have declined nearly 8% since 2012, 2013. And that was true. So the number of students going to college in Canada have declined. What's interesting, though, is there's actually been more students go to post-secondary during that time. And so that growth has actually gone more to brand name universities. So you're seeing more and more students that are brand conscious and looking for big names and bigger universities. And so for us, moving from a college to a polytech, I think is very opportune timing. Ooh, Cindy has overtaken Tertius. Don't know if that's a good career move. True or false? International revenue in Canada has grown from 1.5 to 7 billion in the last decade. True or false? The answers are coming in fast and furious. And that is indeed true. Alberta is a little behind. We've only doubled in that time. And so the Alberta government has been saying that they'd like us to really ramp up our international numbers. And, you know, a lot is made about the actual dollar amounts coming in. And I mean, obviously that's a benefit, but that's not actually the key benefit, I would argue, in a regional area. I think the key benefit of international students in a regional area is twofold. One, it helps you meet your workforce shortage. And two, it also helps you develop capacity so you can offer more programming to domestic students. And so a good example is, you know, I would love to see us offer programs that we aren't currently offering, and then make sure we've got enough international students to come into them, because they have to apply a full year in advance, so you know that that program is going to go ahead. So even if only a handful of domestic students go into it the first time, that's a handful that wouldn't have otherwise been able to take that course here in Grande Prairie or in Fairview. And so that's a high priority for us, is how do we build our international capacity to meet industry needs and to give us more options of programming. Oh, Tertius moved back in again. Which of these are key values in our region? And everybody's got in on that one. Excellent. And you couldn't go wrong. There was no wrong answer on that one. But entrepreneurial spirit, glad to see that pop to the top. For us, the two values of Northwestern Polytechnic, only two. We narrowed it right down. We used to have 11, and nobody could ever. I went around and asked people what the values were, and they all looked at me like kind of stupefied. So we narrowed it down to two. And the two big ones were innovation and responsiveness. So we want to be responsive to our community and to our students. We want to be innovative in delivering our programming and our support. But we do want to be the most entrepreneurial polytechnic in Canada, and that's our vision. So by 2034, our goal is to be the most entrepreneurial polytechnic in Canada. And we've got a number of things we want to do to make that happen. And I'm super excited about it. How many years in a row has Grande Prairie been named Canada's most entrepreneurial community? And again, this seemed to align very well with our vision going forward. The fact that 3 years in a row, we've been named Canada's most entrepreneurial community. If we weren't entrepreneurial at the Polytechnic, then we seem to be missing the boat. So we need to, make sure we're aligned to our community. That's really a goal of being a polytechnic. Ooh, big change there. Is that Tom? Ah, good guess. Woohoo. Even though we haven't done our breakfast yet, I made a good guess. What's our greatest opportunity to become a successful polytechnic? Degree offerings, improved community connection, entrepreneurial thinking, better student experiences. And no wrong answer to this one. I was just curious what people thought. And we're actually doing all four of those things. So we're trying to improve our community connection. We're definitely trying to be more entrepreneurial. And we're actually looking to create, well, not looking to create, we've just posted a job for a associate vice president of students to really improve our student experience and increase our student numbers. And we're in the midst of trying to get some degrees, and I can't give away that answer because that's an upcoming question. So thanks to ARC and Spartan, what programs are now being offered better than ever? Thanks to ARC and Spartan. So for those of you that were at the March 9th event, you might have heard about this. And you may have seen Tertius advocating strongly for the modern dance. And it is instrumentation and engineering. And so those two areas are both, we're super excited about thanks to the partnerships we've got with ARC and Spartan. We've got access to better facilities now, and we've got access to funding to be able to offer a sustainable engineering program. So we're super excited about that. So we're going to offer the first year of engineering here, and then the students go on to U of A. But maybe over time, if we have demand, we can even expand the number of years here. Ooh, Tom looks like he's on fire. Quick on the trigger finger. True or false? NWP intends to offer at least 2 new degrees in 2023. True or false? And everybody was quick on that one. That is true. So I can't tell you that we're looking to offer business and computer science, so I won't say that, but those are the 2 degrees that we arguably could be. And so we've been trying very hard. And actually one of the calls I had this morning was with one of the things you do to get a degree through is you have to go through a quality assurance board. And that's been going on for, gosh, a long time since I got here. We've been going through these processes. And so this morning we had another meeting with the quality assurance board. Seemed to go well. So hopefully that keeps things moving along. Ooh, still on fire, Tom. And by the way, our mayor said she was driving, so she couldn't come in. Otherwise, I'm sure she'd be in first right now. Which of these are short-term priorities for Northwestern Polytechnic? Grow student numbers, promote Grande Prairie as a beach destination, build a center for excellence in entrepreneurship, or offer PhD and master's programs. And you can pick more than one here if you wish. Some people picked us as a beach destination, so that would have been a good choice, but maybe not. So we are looking to grow our student numbers and build a center for excellence in entrepreneurship. As I mentioned, we have just posted a associate vice president of student posting. We've also posted a associate vice president of a center of excellence in entrepreneurship. So we intend to build a center that's going to be a flagship for the region and the entire province in entrepreneurship, and super excited about what that can look like and what we can do to meet industry needs, to have applied research coming out of there, to get our students involved in entrepreneurship, irrespective of what program they're in. So, one of the examples I give is it doesn't matter to me if a student is in fine arts or they're in trades or they're in business. We should be able to offer all of them entrepreneurial training so that they can go off and be successful. Oh, Cindy moved back into first. Got a good battle going here, going back and forth. So last question, and you can pick more than one. What is the best part about Northwestern Polytechnic's brand video? So Tanya showed you their video earlier. There's a little blurb of ours. Got 4 options there. And I'm not going to show the whole video, but I do recommend you go check it out if you haven't seen it already. I personally think it's pretty cool. And all are good answers and all are true. It is short. It shows lots of great employers in the region. It shows lots of great students, and there is no president cameo. So everything you need in a video is right there in one place. So let's see who came on the top for the ride. So number 3 is Tom. Congratulations, Tom. Made it to the podium. RV, I'm not sure who's RV. And number 1, JW. So congratulations. Now JW and RV will have to shout out themselves because I'm not sure who that is.
I am RV.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And who's JW?
That's Jenny.
Ah, well done, Jenny. All right, so I'm going to come out of the Zoom or out of the Kahoot here, and let's see if we can stop sharing. Can't figure out how to stop sharing. Oh, that's why I got this in the wrong spot. Hang on one second. There we go. Okay, welcome back, everybody. And I see I got a couple comments in chat. Oh, Jackie's batting 100%. And Jenny Weaver got first. So congratulations, Jenny. So I should actually just turn over all the questions to Jenny because obviously she knows better than I do what's happening at our Polytech. So with that, thank you all for participating. Hopefully you had a little fun, a couple chuckles, and questions.
No questions yet in the chat box. So if you feel comfortable, do the chat or raise your hand and unmute, please. Actually, Justin, I might just have a question here just to start it off. As we know now, and you've alluded to in your presentation as well, we definitely want to increase the number of foreign students. I guess 2 parts to my question is, number 1 is typically with foreign students, and not just here locally, but also in Victoria and so forth, are they normally, do they rent property, or do they actually have parents that would buy property? And the reason why I'm asking that is also just in light of what the federal government just has announced as far as, and I know this is more typical for bigger centers like Vancouver, where they're going to kind of prevent some foreign investment in the residential purchases potentially for the next couple of years. So I just want to hear your comments on that, if you don't mind.
Well, the short answer to that is it depends what region the students are coming from. And I would expect that a vast majority of the students coming to our region will come from the Punjab region of India. And part of the reason for that is the academic programming we have. IT business tends to attract a lot of Indian students, particularly from the Punjab. And so Indian students typically rent, and they typically try to do it as cost effectively as possible because most Indian students come from middle class or lower socioeconomic areas to regional areas. And so what they'll do is try to make it as cost effective as they can. And so at Coast Mountain, I was there, literally you'd have 8 or 9 students renting a place together, and they would take shifts in terms of who got to sleep when. And then they would work in the off hours, because a lot of them will also get, their entire family will chip in money together to support them. And then they'll send money back as well. So they'll work, the full 20 hours a week that they're allowed to while they're studying, and 40 hours when they're not, and ship back money. So in order to do that, pay their tuition, pay their rent, they try to make it as cheap as they can. We also are trying to figure out how we can bring in students to help with specific programming needs. So for instance, one of the areas we've heard a lot about is a need for truck drivers. And so we've been looking at Jamaican students from there. And I have to admit, I haven't worked as much with Jamaican students, so I'm not as confident in knowing what their housing needs are. I've heard that they tend to like to live on student housing more so, but I haven't experienced that. And then the other group of students I would expect we might get in significant numbers would be from the Philippines. And that's because of our health programming. And Filipino students generally like to live in the community as well. And, you know, they tend to be more likely to do things like basement suites and homestay than Indian students. Chinese students, on the other hand, tend to be the ones that buy, but it's highly unlikely would attract any Chinese students. Chinese students tend to be more attracted to large urban centers and bigger universities. That's certainly been what we've seen. Like my time in BC, we were able to attract them to BCIT very, very well, but even UVic was considered too small to attract Chinese students for the most part.
Okay, awesome. No, thank you for those insights. Yeah.
We do have some couple of questions in the chat box, and I know Valerie has her hand up. So if we go in order, Adrian asked, are you planning to expand the space or property at NWP, or fitting new programs and students into existing spaces?
Good question. The reality is right now, I think we have a lot of space. It's a great position to be in. And so I think we can easily grow our student numbers and our programming within the space we have. But we are just launching, one of the things that we're doing as part of our planning is a campus master plan. And so we're looking at how can we best use our space. And that's in both Grande Prairie and Fairview. And so we're doing both of those, and we're hoping to have that done in about 6 months, and that'll give us a good indicator. And that does two things: one, for our academic planning, but also we do have land, and we want to figure out how can we partner with others to use that land to the benefit of our community and our benefit. And so we want to make sure we don't give up any of that land if we need it for academic programming first and foremost. So we're doing a campus master plan right now to kind of work on that.
Excellent. The next question was, which Canadian communities outside of Grande Prairie do we see the most potential for student growth, and what is the most effective medium for recruitment?
So, I mean, I'm not sure I understand the first part of the question in terms of student growth. Are you talking specifically in our catchment area in Northwestern Alberta? Or are you talking about across Canada? Like if you're talking Canada, certainly Toronto, Vancouver are always, and Montreal are always the easiest to get international students. But in terms of student growth overall, if you're talking domestic, it's really where is the domestic population growing? And Grande Prairie actually does have an advantage. And, you know, that, to be frank, that was part of the reason I chose to come here. Is it's one of the few regions in Western Canada that has a growing youth population. That's very rare in Canada overall. Generally, everywhere else in Canada, it's declining, and that's why you're seeing the need to bring in a lot of international students, because we just don't have enough youth coming in. In terms of what's the most effective medium for recruitment, there is no one answer to that. It really depends on who the type of students are you're picking on. So if you're talking about high school students, it's very different than the 30 and over crowd. And so if you look at Northwestern Polytechnic, we really have two big pools of students, those who come from high school and those who are 30 and over. We don't actually get a lot of students between the ages of 20 and 30 coming in. And so the 18-year-olds is a very different group to reach in terms of what their goals are. They're more driven by the student experience, the lifestyle, having options. The 30 and over crowd wants to get in and out as quickly as possible, get their credential, and have it convenient. And so the way you market to them is quite different.
Okay, next, Valerie had her hand up, has been for a while. So go ahead, Valerie.
Thanks, Tom. Justin, I was just wondering, is there any plans for Northwestern to work with community organizations, maybe that fall into the same category of helping our youth to find employment or wanting to go back to school?
The short answer is yes. And I mean, we want to work with everybody. And as you point out, there's other community organizations that are out there that are already doing some of these things. So rather than reinvent the wheel, how can we work with them and support their efforts? And, there's all kinds of different ways of doing that. And I don't have any specific things off the top of my head. I'll think of it probably tonight about 11 o'clock. But I do know that I've been in meetings with other youth groups and groups that are supporting different different audiences and things like that, and we've been brainstorming about some of those, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now.
Okay, the next question was, what percentage of the student body is international students?
Right now, I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I think it's like 7 or 8%. It's very low. The highest number that we had was just before COVID. We had about 200 international students, so that's almost 10%. And our goal in our strategic plan is to grow that to around 450 in the short term and then 650 in the longer term. So we think that that's a relatively modest number. And I know people in my institution, think that that's huge. Coming from BC, I think that's pretty small, but that's okay. We will kind of settle in the middle there. And as I said, I think around 450, 500 is imminently manageable, and that would. And we actually just finished doing an international plan, and part of the planning was to look at two things. One, back to Tertia's point, one was housing. What would be our capacity in terms of housing in the region? Because we don't want to not have students be able to find a place to live. And secondly, part-time jobs. So what's the need of employers for part-time employees, and what would be our maximum there? And for both those cases, we think 450 is in the short term quite manageable. Yeah. Oh, Tanya's got her hand up as well. So Tanya.
And thanks, Justin. Great presentation. It was super fun.
Thank you.
I was hoping you could talk a little bit about what you guys are doing in the work integrated learning space and connecting employers with students and their education, and kind of what that looks like.
Good questions. And so first off, one of the things we have to report to the government on is work integrated learning and how many students do work integrated learning. And that's one of our KPIs. And if we don't meet that, we get financially penalized. So obviously it's near and dear to my heart. And I think, we're over 97 or 98% of our students get an opportunity to do work integrated learning. And so there's a lot of different models. There isn't just one. And one of the things that Shireen has been working on, and I don't know if you guys know Shireen or not, but Shireen is fantastic, and she's the VP of External Relations. And so she has a workforce advisory committee, and that workforce advisory committee is taking a look at exactly that. So how do our students currently do work integrated learning? And then how can we enhance that further? And what might that look like? And so, there's the traditional work integrated learning, but then there's also, can we offer online opportunities for students that maybe have other barriers? So for instance, maybe they've got young children, or things that prohibit them from being able to be out in the workforce. But is there ways that we can create online work opportunities? And so we're trying some things there as well. So we're trying not just the traditional, co-op or traditional, summer students, or not, those are good, but we want to keep adding to those and trying some other things out as well.
Awesome, thank you. And I think it'll help, obviously we have a chronic labor shortage here. in our area, and that's just been amplified with COVID. And I think the more creative you guys get with connecting the students with meaningful employment or meaningful connections in the real, employment world, the more we can hopefully keep those students here and help fill that gap in the workforce.
Totally agree. And I mean, that's certainly, if I was to summarize one of the pain points I've heard since I've got here from industry and employers, that's it, right? It's like we just need more warm bodies to occupy seats. And I can tell you, I feel that too. I mean, right now, as an institution, 9 of our 15 senior positions are either vacant or they are in interim roles. And so I feel people's pain on that. And so I agree, like we need to be able to create a workforce that wants to be in the region and that belongs to it before they, even graduate, because there's lots of opportunities right now. And so if we can have them, working closely with people while they're still, studying, then hopefully they build those relationships and stick around.
Another question from the chat box. How or what are you doing to attract top quality professors?
Good question. Thank you, Adrian. I think 2 things. One, by offering degrees, that in itself means that people are more excited because they get to teach higher level students, and that is pretty cool. 2, I think we're changing, and well, I wouldn't say changing so much as building a new reputation for Northwestern Polytechnic and trying to really make it one of those places that people aspire to be part of. And then 3 is, and I mentioned this in my presentation, is we're trying to align with the community through that entrepreneurial piece. And so if we can be seen as the most entrepreneurial polytechnic in Canada, that really draws people in who think that way. And so if I look at my previous institution, we aspire to become the most experiential place-based learning college in Canada, and we, I would say, achieve that. And by doing that, we got faculty and staff who wanted to be part of that, who were excited by that. That's what floated their boat. They came from around the world, around the country to join us. And then as they did that, so did students. And then ironically, and this is one of the things I've told other people, is if you really want to get domestic students to stay and study at Northwestern Polytechnic, you need to get people from outside the region to come here first, because what will happen is they will say, hey, how come all these people are coming here to study this? And then they start to appreciate what's in their backyard. And I've seen that happen at every institution I've been at. People often take for granted what's in their backyard until others start coming in and saying, hey, this is really cool. And so those are, that's a very long answer to say what we want to do is increase our profile as the most entrepreneurial polytechnic, and then hopefully we'll get faculty that think that way, and then they'll attract other faculty as we go.
Perfect. Ken has a question by the looks of it.
Yes. Thanks, Justin.
Getting some revenge for me throwing you under the bus earlier.
That's it. Here it comes. All right, you better crawl your administration crew in for this one. We know that one of the main magnets to a regional college and university is their sports programs, being able to offer scholarships and bursaries for athletes to entice not just the development of the sports teams, but also as a default, it increases the student population. What, if any, future plans, current plans are there in place to elevate the sports programs through the college? And has there been any further discussion in regards to the high performance component or a development of a high performance sector within the college sports plan?
So I'm not familiar with the term high performance, Ken. So when you're talking about that, are you talking about something different than the athletes that are currently in soccer and those type of sports currently?
Yeah.
So I don't.
High performance training center has been on the radar, or in previous conversations historically in the last, I don't know, 5 to 8 years or so, a high performance center that specifically would be another offshoot of the existing sports program, but all part and parcel of the overall sports strategic plan?
So to be honest, I haven't dug into that one at all, as you could tell by my answer. But in terms of sports overall, I do agree it should be a key component of our recruitment piece. And one of the things that we are doing this year again is we're looking at our sports and saying, how can we use them more strategically to help us attract students to stay in the region and to come to the region. And, what's happened since the heyday of 2008 to 2010 is there's been a lot of private sports groups that have kind of taken on the mantle of, doing youth sports in the region. And I think we've intentionally stepped back because we don't want to be competing with them, but how could we cooperate with them? How could we partner with them to support their efforts in a mutually beneficial way so that students kind of aspire growing up to be a wolf? And that's one of the questions that, I've kind of tossed into the lap of our coaches and say, well, how can we do this better? And so I do think there's opportunities for us to use sports more strategically than we have. I also think that there's ways for us to use our scholarships more strategically than we have for both recruiting academic students and athletes. And so, we're going to be kicking off our golf tournament, now called the Northwestern Classic, I believe, in June. And so hopefully you guys will all be coming and swinging a club and helping us raise some money. And that money will go to scholarships, for instance, for this type of thing that we're talking about exactly right now. And then the third piece is we're hoping to increase the profile and the type of students we can have by having our degree programs too, because one of the big challenges we have in terms of being competitive is because we don't have degree programs, our students leave after 2 years generally. So, the better athletes obviously play longer, they play 3 and 4 years. So if we have degrees, then we can recruit students who are coming for a full 4 years. And we think that that'll also improve the quality of our program and elevate its status as we go forward. The other thing I'll just give as a little teaser is we're about to launch, well, not about to, but in the at the golf tournament I mentioned earlier, we're going to hopefully launch our new cool jerseys. So for those of you that want to come check out the cool jerseys that the Wolves are going to have going forward, come to the event in June.
It's a great event. What else can the business community do, or the community in general can do to help the Polytechnic get to where it wants to be?
Well, and some of you have probably heard me say this before. So, but honestly, I have been blown away by the community. Every community always says they're supportive and they're really helpful and all that stuff. But I've never seen a community like this one. Like people literally just roll up their sleeves and get it done. And it's been so nice to be able to work in that. And the thing I've said to people is it's the closest I've felt to Australia since I left Australia. It doesn't matter what it is. If someone says we should get together for lunch, they mean tomorrow. They mean we're going to do that. It's not just general. And if people say that they're going to help out, they do. And if and so it's really nice actually. And so I don't know that there's anything specific other than I would say, if I go back to that Center of Entrepreneurial Excellence, that is going to be a huge goal for us to both fundraise for that, but also to build that center and have that as the flagship for, as I said, not just our region, but I hope the entire province. And so that we become, the entrepreneurial capital. I think we already are, but I think recognized as the entrepreneurial capital of Alberta. And so what I'd really like is people's thoughts in terms of what they could look like. And I'm looking just on my screen right now at Jason, and I don't know if everybody knows Jason or not, but he's moving here from Lloydminster to set up the EOS. And so he and I have been talking about, well, what does that look like? And could that support the Center of Entrepreneurial Excellence. And so I think, that there's some really good role models for us to look at. I've been talking to some universities in South Carolina, for instance. They've got some really good models there. But I want to make sure we take the best of those and then combine it with what we need here. And I've only lived in the community 5 months. And so as I was telling Tanya and Tertius, I was trying to get offering on a house at 15 minutes before this presentation. So I was jumping back and forth. So they're trying to figure out what happened to me. So I don't profess to be an expert in the region yet, but I would really value people giving input and saying, well, how have you thought of this? Or could we do this? Or could the center do this? And then figuring out what that looks like.
Excellent. I think that's about all the time we have for questions. So I'll turn it back to Tertius.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom. And thanks, Jason, especially those warm words about our community. We certainly do have the best community, and we really welcome you again. And thanks again for your leadership, your insights today, and for the fun presentation as we could see thank you very much for that. And then also to Tanya for the insights on our Think Local again. And then our presenting partners, Aquatera, CAP, City of Grande Prairie, and GPRN, and our supporting partners, the Community Futures of Grande Prairie and Region, the County of Grande Prairie, and the MD of Greenview. And last but not least, every one of you attending here today, we really, really, really appreciate your time, your commitment, and how you interact with our community and our chamber. The next installment in our Community Pulse series will be on April 27th, featuring Dawn Miller from the Grande Prairie Regional Hospital Foundation. Also upcoming is our State of the Region with the City of Grande Prairie, the County of Grande Prairie, and the MD of Greenview on April 22nd. Please pencil that into your calendars. We also have a Communicate for Profits webinar on April 26th, and our non-charitable sector business showcase on April 28th as part of Volunteer Week with the Grande Prairie Regional Associations of Volunteer Organizations. And not forget, our registration for our Peace Region Energy Show continues, and that is on May 18th to 19th at Evergreen Park. Contact the Chamber office for more information or visit our website, grandeprairiechamber.com. Thanks again for everyone. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you at the Northwestern Golf event. Take care, everyone.